Good everyone, welcome to this video, and today we have something a little bit different to what I normally do. So here we are going to be pretty much doing what it says up here, funnily enough. We're going to be discussing all of the hydroplanes, aka seaplanes, that are currently available in War Thunder on naval ships. Now, of course, I won't be covering all of them in, personal experience of, playing them in, test drives and stuff, because I don't have access to all of them. The ones that I've not been able to try are, I believe it's the E8N2. It's one of these two. I think it's this one I wasn't able to try. I wasn't able to try the Walrus or the Osprey. Everything else I was able to try. So for this video, I will not be including the Kingfishers, because those can already be acquired if you reach rank 2 in US ships. The Arado 196A3 will also not be included, and the HE51B2H will also not be included. The A5 we've already had a review on, so this isn't really relevant. And obviously some of the tech tree stuff, like the Sunderland, the BV, the PBM3, which I don't even have, those are not going to be discussed. Obviously these are only the catapult-launched hydroplanes, which are not available to be played at this current moment in time. Now, there's a couple of them which I don't think need to be added into the tech trees, but we'll discuss more on that once we get into it. So, let's begin with the Sockone, also known as the Seagull. This is a gift rank 1 American bomber that has a battle rating of 1.3, which I think is a bit stupid, but we'll obviously cover BRs and everything, because remember, this is not available to be played as an actual vehicle in the game. It is only able to be used in naval battles, and that is only as a ship-based catapult aircraft, which it doesn't have a fully finished. Well, it doesn't have a fully finished cockpit, and at least to me, this doesn't, like most of these planes, don't feel like they have fully finished flight models. But obviously, if they were to become new aircraft for people to play, I would imagine they'd finish them. So where would I put this instead of 1.3? Well, that's very simple. I'd put it after the Kingfisher and require the rank 2 in naval. The reason why I'm saying this is because I think this is a good way for, as long as they fix the balancing, that is, of low-tier naval. But I think it's a good way to, encourage people to play a little bit of naval and, maybe learn it, maybe enjoy it, if you're a masochist, of course. But primarily, this is just mainly to point out that I think it's a good idea, and I think this thing should be after the Kingfisher, because it feels a little bit more nimble than the Kingfisher does. You still get the same gun, so you get a 30 cal in the front and a 30 cal in the back, as well as a couple of bombs. Nothing really to write home about. Obviously, performance here, I cannot confirm if this is legit. 296 kilometers an hour, I can tell you right now, it's not that fast. And of course, down here you can find information about the armaments and everything like that. So I think just in general, this thing can come to the game and not really make huge differences, but I think it's perfectly fine to come in. Now, before I continue any further, if you do want to use this for a forum post, as in the video itself, discussing these planes, please do feel free. You don't have to credit me. I just want to, get these vehicles out there. And maybe someday we might have these in the tech trees. That's something I just want. As I said, though, I'd put this after the Kingfisher, but require you to unlock rank 2 naval. That's the same for all of these vehicles here, so I'm not going to repeat that. But just in general, I think that's the best way to really put these vehicles into the game and not really have new players having a problem with them. Next one is arguably my favourite one, the Core 1. This is a rank 1 Soviet. Well, do I even need to go any further? I mean, it's a float plane. I'm not really going to repeat myself on that. But this is obviously a ship-launched reconnaissance aircraft, same as all the others. And this one is arguably the most fun. So you can obviously get it on the Kirov, the Voroshilov, and the Maxim Gorky. That's where I test drove it on the Maxim Gorky. But my god, this one was fun, because these top bulges up here, they're Shirkas machine guns. You also get a Shirkas in the back, and you get 2 100-kilogram Russian bombs. Now, I would imagine just to help these planes out, I would give them bomb sights even if they didn't have them, just to give them that little bit of extra, help. Same with the OS2U. I think that could do with a bomb sight, even if it didn't have one. The point is that you just got to help these planes out a little bit, because they're not always going to be player friendly, even with the lock behind the rank 2 experience and everything like that. But this one, absolutely. If we get this, first thing I'm unlocking is this one. Telling you that right now. Now we move on to one that I'm a little bit skeptical about, the Osprey Mark IV. This is only available on 2 ships and comes at 1.0 in RB, which I think is more than fair. It does have a offensive gun. It does come with a single Vickers E and comes with a Lewis in the back. I don't believe it comes with any bombs because it doesn't say here. I would imagine it doesn't. I don't know why it's classed as a bomber. If they really needed to, like, pull the old bullcrap brigade on this thing, give it a bomber spawn regardless. I mean, the MB-175 gets it, and it's not a bomber. But you get my point. I just think that would help it out a little bit, even if you don't get bombs on it. Because, I mean, it's still got an offensive gun. You can still shoot stuff with it. Won't do a lot, but this one, I'm not too... I wouldn't say we need this, but... yeah, rank 2 lock up, but make sure it's before the Walrus, because the Walrus can actually be used in this regard. Speaking of the Walrus, we have the Walrus, which is arguably the most weird looking one, but I quite like it regardless. Again, 1.0, perfectly fine, that's where I would put it. And as you can tell, it's a bit like a British MBR2 in a way. Obviously it's got an extra wing, but even so. I would agree that this one needs to come. Obviously, same again, rank 2 lockup, well, behind lock. And it does have a Lewis machine gun in the nose and a Lewis machine gun in the dorsal turret that I showed you. And it does come with 4 250-pound bombs, which is equivalent to a Blenheim. So, whilst it doesn't bring a lot to the table, it does at least bring some bombs. And I think, as I said, rank 2... naval lock behind, so to speak, would be more than adequate, and I think this thing could go just before the V156 if you're going to put it in an actual slot. As for the Osprey, I would obviously put it before the Walrus, because the Osprey just isn't as useful. But now we're going to move on to the Japanese ones, and I've got to remember which one it is, but even so, we'll start out with the E7K2. I don't think this is the one that I got to... no, it is. This is the one I got to test fly. And this is the one that I don't think we need. I say this because if we go to the armament, it only has 2 7.7s, which are Japanese ones, so not great. It does come with bombs, but the problem is with it is, whilst it would be fine at 1.0, obviously it's 1.3 here, but that's not a huge issue. The issue is that it's very slow from what I've flown it with. It doesn't have a forward gun, and I just don't think we really need this, because we have the B5N. The B5N beats this in every metric. It's faster, better turn rate, arguably more durable, because I did some tests with I switched to like the 20mm on a ship that I tested, well, 25mm I should say, and this thing, like, it got clipped by a 25 and fell apart, so yeah. And if you're falling apart to a Japanese 25mm cannon, yeah, that isn't a good thing, because the Japanese 25 is kind of shit, at least from everything that I know about it. But yeah, this is probably the only one, other than maybe the RO43, that we do not need. So this one is a pass from Joe. Next up, we have the E8N2. This is only available under Suzuya, so I couldn't test fly this one, but this one looks fun. I say this because we actually get a gun. We get a Type 97 machine gun in the nose. We also get 2 60kg bombs, and we also get a 7.7. Now, I would imagine this thing is quite maneuverable, a bit like the E7, but this thing actually gets a gun. Whilst it isn't much of a gun, I mean, look at the Key 32 and tell me that's a great gun, that's on its wing. It at least gets something to defend itself. But again, I would put this at 1.0, same as the other planes that I've mentioned, and just have it in as a fun little premium tech tree vehicle that you obviously do have to spade, but just in general, I think this is the one that we really need for the Japanese, because they had a lot of float planes, so I wouldn't, like, restrict them in that regard. So this one, yeah, this one can come. We're on to the next one now, and this one doesn't have a forward gun, but it does have a bit more character, and plus this one's quite... If I say this one shouldn't come, I'm going to get some hate from the Japanese players, so before the Japanese players do that, yes, I agree this thing should come, because this thing actually has a little bit of speed behind it. Not much, but it's 1.0, which is what it will be, if I was to do it, of course. Again, it can be test flown on the Haruna, which is how I did it. I don't actually have the Haruna, but I just test flown it and gave this a try. It does, I believe, it's the E8 that has a bomb. No, the E7, sorry, has a bomb bay. I believe this one does as well. And it carries two 60-kilogram bombs in there, and there's two on the outer pylons. It's also quite agile. It's a bit like a cape with floats on it and a bit more engine power. So I don't have a problem with this one. Like I said, you don't get a gun, but I think just because of the extra speed, the turn rate being quite good still, and the fact that it can bring a couple of bombs to the party is at least worth discussing in that regard. And as far as I'm concerned, yes, this one can come and there'll be no problems. And now we move on to the last one, which I really don't know what to think about this one. This is the RO43. This one, I would argue, is a mix. Like, I don't know whether to say yes or no. So for now, I'm going to remain on the fence. It just doesn't appeal to me. It does have two 7.7s in the nose, but they're Italian 7.7s, so they do about as much damage as a paintball gun, and you also get one in the back as well. You do not get any bombs on this thing, which again limits it in that regard, and I really don't know why it's called a light bomber or a bomber in general, but from looking it up, this thing was never retrofitted with bombs. Obviously, I don't have access to all the information in the world, but if you do happen to know anything about that, please do let me know. But if it can't carry bombs, we don't need it. It's not going to bring much to the table. But if it could carry bombs, even if it's like 250-kilogram German bombs, put it in 1.0 and the rank 2 requirement either... And I forgot to mention, it doesn't matter which naval you choose, like Blue Water or Coastal, you still get access to the vehicles regardless, same with the OS2Us. But yeah, I hope that opens your eyes up a little bit about these vehicles, because obviously not many people really knew that they're on the Wikipedia page of War Thunder. And like I said, for some of them, I'll be more than happy to have them in the game. But I personally think at least two of them, this one being one of them, can be skipped perfectly fine and we won't really worry about it. But, I mean, it's probably going to be inevitable that this thing and the E7 that I mentioned will probably come anyway, but those two, as far as I'm concerned, they're not priority. But anyway, I'm going to leave you all to it. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about these planes and obviously understanding the armaments and everything. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think we need these? And do you agree with what I've chosen? Because I think I've been pretty fair with these things, to be brutally honest. Harry was probably going to come onto this video and only want the core one, because I know what he's like. But yeah, like I said, if you want to use this for a forum post, please do feel free. You do not need to credit me. I don't really mind about that. But like I said, if you're actively wanting more seaplanes in the game like I am, do obviously mention this video and share it with friends and everything. But anyway, I'm going to leave you all to it. I hope you enjoyed today's overview of all the seaplanes on the Naval Battles, and I will see you all on the next one.